The story of the Holocaust does not begin with camps or trains or war. It begins much earlier in a Europe where suspicion and prejudice toward Jewish communities had existed for centuries. Jewish people had lived across Europe for generations, contributing to society and trade, education, science, and culture. But they were often treated as outsiders. At different points in history, they were blamed for economic crises, disease outbreaks, or political instability. These accusations were not based on evidence, but they were repeated so often that they became embedded in parts of society. This long history of anti-Semitism created an environment where, under the right conditions, these ideas could be intensified and weaponized. One of the individuals who absorbed and later amplified these ideas was Adolf Hitler. He was born in 1889 in Austria and spent part of his early life in Vienna, a city where nationalist and anti-Semitic political movements were active. During this time, he was exposed to extreme ideologies that claimed Jews were responsible for many of society's problems, including controlling financial systems and influencing politics. These ideas were not unique to him, but he adopted them strongly and began shaping his worldview around them. Then came World War I, a conflict that would change Europe completely. Hitler served as a soldier for Germany and experienced the war directly. When the war ended in 1918, Germany was defeated. The defeat was not only military, but psychological. Many Germans felt shocked and humiliated, especially because the fighting had not reached deep into German territory. Soon after, Germany was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. This treaty imposed heavy penalties. Germany had to give up land, reduce its military, and pay large financial reparations. The economy suffered badly, and many people felt the country had been treated unfairly. During this time, a dangerous idea spread within parts of Germany, often called the stab-in-the-back myth. It claimed that Germany had not truly lost the war on the battlefield, but had been betrayed from within by certain groups, including Jews and political opponents. This claim had no factual basis, but it provided a simple explanation for a complex defeat, and many people accepted it during a time of frustration and anger. Germany then entered a period known as the Weimar Republic, a democratic government that faced constant instability. The early 1920s saw hyperinflation so severe that money lost its value almost overnight. People carried stacks of cash just to buy basic goods. Later, the global economic crisis known as the Great Depression hit in 1929, causing massive unemployment and further economic collapse. Millions of people were struggling to survive, and many lost trust in the existing political system. It was in this environment that Hitler's influence began to grow. He joined a small political group that would become the Nazi Party. Through speeches and propaganda, he presented himself as someone who could restore Germany's strength and pride. His message was simple and emotional. Germany had been wronged, and certain groups were responsible. By repeating these ideas, he gave people a clear target for their anger and fear. In 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. Within a short time, he moved to consolidate power. Political opposition was suppressed, and Germany was transformed into a one-party state. Control over newspapers, radio, education, and public messaging allowed the Nazi government to spread its ideology widely. Propaganda became a powerful tool, constantly reinforcing the idea that Jews were not just different, but dangerous. This ideology was based on a belief in racial hierarchy, where some groups were considered superior and others inferior. Jews were portrayed as a threat to the nation, despite being a small minority. Through repeated messaging, stereotypes were turned into accepted truths for many people. The next phase was not immediate violence, but legal discrimination. In 1935, the Nuremberg Laws were introduced. These laws removed Jewish citizenship and restricted basic rights. Jewish people were excluded from public life, banned from certain professions, and prevented from marrying non-Jews. This legal separation made discrimination part of everyday life and reduced interaction between communities. Over time, the pressure increased. Jewish businesses were boycotted, and social exclusion became more severe. Then in 1938, a major turning point occurred with Kristallnacht. Across Germany and Austria, Jewish homes, businesses, and synagogues were attacked and destroyed. Thousands were arrested and sent to camps. This marked a shift from discrimination to open violence, showing that the state not only allowed such actions, but encouraged them. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland, beginning World War II. As German forces expanded across Europe, millions more Jews came under Nazi control. At first, there was no single unified plan for mass extermination. Instead, policies became more extreme step by step. Jews in occupied territories were forced into ghettos, where living conditions were overcrowded and harsh. Food shortages, disease, and forced labor became part of daily life. As the war continued, especially after Germany invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, mobile killing units known as Einsatzgruppen began carrying out mass shootings. Entire communities were targeted. These actions marked a further escalation, but even then, Nazi leadership sought more systematic methods. In 1942, senior officials met at the Wannsee Conference to coordinate what they called the final solution. This plan aimed to systematically eliminate the Jewish population of Europe. From this point, extermination camps became central to the process. Facilities such as Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Sobibor were designed specifically for mass killing. People were transported in trains under extreme conditions. Upon arrival, selections were made. Some were forced into labor, while many were killed immediately in gas chambers. This system was organized, industrial, and carried out over several years. By the end of the war in 1945, approximately 6 million Jews had been killed. This event is known as the Holocaust. It also affected millions of others, including Roma people, disabled individuals, political prisoners, and others targeted by the Nazi regime. When Allied forces began liberating camps, the scale of what had happened became clear. Survivors, documents, and physical evidence revealed a system that had developed over time, not in a single moment, but through a series of decisions, policies, and actions. The Holocaust stands as one of the most significant events in modern history, not only because of its scale, but because of how it unfolded. It shows how ideas, when left unchallenged, can evolve into policies, and how policies can lead to actions with devastating consequences. It did not begin with violence. It began with belief, reinforced through repetition, supported by systems of power, and accepted step by step. And understanding that process is essential, not only to understand the past, but to recognize how similar patterns can begin in any society.